Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Handpicked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. famouscigars.com/cam.
A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. The Phoenix Suns are 0-1 in the first round of the NBA playoffs after losing to the Los Angeles Clippers at home. I'm already all mixed up. My tongue is already tied. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay given the circumstances. I'm not going to allow any panicking at this point in the series, obviously. But, yeah, we do have a lot to talk about, especially just losing in a very Phoenix Suns fashion tonight, wasting the greatest defensive effort I think either of us have ever seen from Devin Booker. It stings. And also a very good game from Kevin Durant for at least part of the night. But, yeah, really hard to swallow first quarter, drag themselves back into it, and just a really tough loss at the end of things.
And maybe even some sort of inexplicable decisions by Monty Williams in a way that I didn't quite expect. I mean, we can start at the very beginning. Josh Okogie didn't start in this game. Torrey Craig came in and started. And Torrey Craig, I'm not going to fault him here. He played
outstanding.
Well. I mean, he had 22 points. He was really good.
Before the game, did not agree with the decision to start Torrey Craig. I can't say shit about Torrey Craig tonight. Of all players, there's a bunch of players I think we could go after. Torrey Craig is not one of them. He had 22 points on 12 shots. He was terrific.
And I think the decision must have been at least partially motivated by the assumption that the Clippers were going to use Zubats to guard Okogie. Mm-hmm. And if Zubats is guarding someone and it happens to be Torrey Craig, I think that's a better situation for the Suns. You know, obviously defensively, you have Torrey Craig guarding Kawhi Leonard, who was just unbelievable tonight. Kawhi is just insane. But I think offensively, on the other side of that, if you have Zubats on someone, I just don't think Okogie could have punished that matchup in the same way that Torrey Craig did, and Torrey Craig did a good job. And 22 points, just like you said, it's pretty insane to see that happen. The entire starting lineup outside of Devin Booker was a plus in the plus-minus. Devin Booker's, where the Suns kind of got beat, was Booker was sort of the guy, the only starter in these bench lineups, where, I mean, in this game, what do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... six bench players played. Terrence Ross 4 minutes. Yeah,
11 rotation in game 1 of the playoffs. Yeah. Unheard of. Just doesn't happen.
And part of it
doesn't happen.
Part of it makes sense in that if you play Biyombo and they're just going to hack him every time he even gets close to the rim, play Jock Landale. Cool. Yep. I'm happy with that. You know, that part makes sense. You're playing an extra guy. Jock Landale was clearly better The Suns are getting beat when any of these bench players are on the floor right now at all. But Jock Landale was clearly better than Biyombo. And I even think a stretch at the beginning of the game with Jock Landale instead of Biyombo could have had a bigger impact. And I'll be curious to see if that's something they go to in the next game, or, which they did in this game too, skip a backup center entirely and just go with Kevin Durant at center, which is hard because that means Ish Wainwright's playing minutes, which did happen in this game. It didn't go that well either there.
Ish
but
Wainwright
if you shift...
does not need to play minutes ever, definitely in this series, but he does not need to be out there just because you're going small ball 5. He doesn't. There are other wings on this team. Play someone else. Play Terrence Ross more than 4 minutes to try and get him into an offensive rhythm. Play TJ Warren to try and get him into an offensive rhythm, who rotted on the bench again tonight. And I'm not suggesting that like those guys would have been ultimately the only difference here. But Ish Wainwright, 7 minutes, 1 defensive rebound, minus 12. It's inexcusable. I don't get the infatuation that Monty has for him. It's not to say that he hasn't had awesome performances in the past in the regular season. This is not. He's not ready for this.
Yeah. 15 offensive rebounds. The Clippers had 15 offensive rebounds. It almost feels like that's the whole game right there, right? Because with the Suns, they don't take a ton of threes. The Clippers took 31, the Suns took 20. And that means that you have to win the possession battle. The Clippers are going to turn it over more than the Suns for the majority of the series, and they did in this game 14-10. So the Suns can win the turnover battle. They cannot get hammered on the offensive boards, especially against a team that plays essentially one big. Plumlee plays as well, but they never play with 2 tall guys on the floor at a time. You do always have Russell Westbrook, who was really good in this game, by the way, attacking the boards over and over and over again. But that's not the majority of it. The majority of it came from Zubac, who was just hammering the Suns, and I think Ayton just could not handle him. And too often, and this is the case with Ayton throughout his entire career, too often Ayton is chasing the rebound instead of putting a body on Zubac. And it's one thing to do that when you have Cameron Johnson at power forward. I think it's a little different to do that when you have a 7-footer at power forward. You have to trust your teammates to chase down the ball on those rebounds and get a body on their only great rebounder that's on the floor. I think it was just, in the end of the game, that was a big component of how it ended, because they got 4 possessions in the last minute when the Suns were within 1 point and then ended up scoring after all that. Whereas the rest of the game, it just matters too, because those extra possessions just add up. And if they're shooting more threes and getting extra possessions, they had 41. They made 41 field goal attempts. They took 93. The Suns took 83. Those extra possessions, they add up and they matter a lot. And in this game, I think that was their undoing.
You can't be a bystander at this level. You just can't. I mean, even when there are going to be guys who take shots on every possession. But every player is doing something. Every player needs to be somewhere, and you can't just be ball watching. You can't be a bystander when it comes to defensive rebounding. Other guys in the starting lineup, for the most part, I thought understood that. When the Suns were playing at their best tonight, when they were making runs, Chris Paul, at 6 foot or 5'11", Chris Paul, whatever he is, had an outstanding rebounding performance. He had 11 rebounds tonight, 10 of them defensive. I saw him box out Zubac perfectly on multiple occasions. He had the play of the game with an offensive rebound and a nutmeg pass that led to an assist. Ayton, by contrast, was on the opposite end of the spectrum. He was a bystander. He had 8 rebounds in total, but 0 offensive, and many of the worst lowlights came at the end of the game.
And they were trying to put him in a lot of different actions too, I think, defensively. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Suns adjust that. Go ahead and finish your thought there.
No, it's just, I'm only bringing this up because you brought it up. I saw on Twitter you talked about he's the $30 million center. You brought up the monetary figure. We're not paying
this is
that.
His first playoffs as a max player. I think it's important to point that out.
We're not paying that figure for you to take, pick and pop 18-foot jumpers in the clutch, which he did hit one. He missed a lot of others, but he did hit one. I'll give him credit for that. But we're not trying to run our offense through you. They want you to take those shots because they consider it a weakness of yours relative to, versus letting Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, who are just much more talented offensive players, shoot. We are paying you to be the defensive anchor and the rebounding anchor of this team, and the true spirit of being able to grind it out. And he just wasn't. He was a bystander throughout the game, and it fucking sucks because we need him to be much better if we're going to close out and win 4 of the next 6 games now.
8 for 16 is bad for a center who doesn't shoot, doesn't really take jumpers. And he needs to be more efficient than that. Same with Chris Paul, by the way, 2 for 9 for Chris Paul. And they're playing this deep drop with Zubac. And Zubac does come out to try and contest at the very end, just like all centers do when Chris Paul takes that shot. But Chris Paul has to hit those shots if the Suns are going to get out of that. Otherwise, them playing that deep of a drop against this Suns team and it being effective is huge, because a deep drop like that, this team is designed to punish that. And, to be fair, Kevin Durant, who had 27 points on 15 field goal attempts, did. Devin Booker, who had 26 points on 19 field goal attempts, also did. But the fact that everyone else kind of didn't, maybe outside of Torrey Craig, who had sort of an out-of-body experience in this game compared to his normal type of game, they have to be able to punish that. You can't allow Zubac to be that effective defensively when they're playing essentially a game plan that you want them to play. Well, it's not a great sign.
And luckily, at least KD's a newcomer, but Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they've played dozens. Is that overkill? They've played at least 20, 30 playoff games together now, right? Math is on their side when it comes to drop defense not working against the Phoenix Suns, not working against that particular duo. I think there's regression that we can expect going forward as we talk about what are the things to look forward for in this series. There's going to be regression coming in a lot of places. The good news for the Suns is, basically they dug themselves in a hole by taking those types of shots that normally they hit in the first quarter and just didn't make any of them. Then a couple of guys turned it on. Booker looked much more... He showed more intent towards attacking the basket at a certain point in the game, and I thought it opened up other things for them. And so that offense kind of came back on, and I think that will continue to be there for them in the rest of the series. Now, the Clippers have some regression, too. Say what you will about Russell Westbrook. I want him to be taking shots, of course. Is he going to be 3 for 19 bad for the rest of the series? I'm not sure he's going to be 3 for 19 bad. Right, I definitely do want him taking shots. But he was awful tonight. And if he just had a normal performance as well, I'm sure that's something that the Clippers can point at and say, hey, Russell Westbrook's not going to shoot 15% from the field this entire series. So we have an opportunity to tack more points on the board as well. So it's kind of coming for both sides.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, he's not going to be super effective. I think he'll be a negative more than he's a positive. In this game, I think he was a positive, regardless of how you look at single game plus minus. Once again, doesn't matter. And I think in these playoffs especially, there's such runs that have such impact on those for single games that they really don't matter. I do have a feeling we're probably going to see a very clear picture of Russell Westbrook hitting Devin Booker's wrist on that last play, because I think it probably was a foul. I'm not going to get super angry about some of the calls made in this game in particular, because I think some of them benefited the Suns as well, particularly when DeAndre Ayton was called for a phantom foul when it was clearly... It probably should have been a charge on Russell Westbrook, but if it was a foul on the Suns, it should have been a Devin Booker foul. So it is what it is. Those calls just go either way. That's what happens sometimes, and it's kind of why, in some ways, jump shots, mid-range jump shots are effective in the playoffs in general, because you're less likely to get fouled on those, and if they're not going to call certain fouls at the rim, sometimes those jump shots are good. I do want to say, though, obviously I think Chris Paul could be better. I think DeAndre Ayton could be a lot better. And I would say Chris Paul was still pretty good, but the shooting needs to be better. And DeAndre Ayton, I think he can improve offensively. I think he could improve defensively. I think he could improve on the rebounds especially. None of these are, you can't point at any of these things and say this is the reason they lost. But here's one of the things that was bothering me throughout the game. Josh Okogie comes off the bench. Now, Josh Okogie has been an effective player, a good player, I think you can say, for the Suns in the last 20 or so games of the season. One of the reasons it works with Josh Okogie is because the starting lineup has so much offense that you can sort of get away with Josh Okogie being there with the starters. He's effective. You don't lose too much offensively. You lose some, especially against a coach like Ty Lue. He might be able to exploit that in ways that other coaches can't. You move him to the bench, there's just not enough offense in the bench. Once you start taking some of the starters out, you start mixing guys in. Now Josh Okogie comes in. He's playing where there's not enough offense on the floor in general. Now you're losing what makes him effective. Right? You don't have enough offense to make up for the lack of offense that Josh Okogie gives you. He's the guy, or one of the guys, that can create more possessions for the Suns on offensive rebounds, or he can do it by getting steals or blocks. Mm-hmm. It's just, you're shifting the dynamic of the team a little too much there, in my opinion.
You're definitely shifting the dynamic of the team. Look, Josh was the surprise of the second half of the season. He was maybe the Suns', fourth or fifth best player. So for him to play 7 minutes in general is pretty insane. Just given how well Torrey played, I have a feeling Monty's going to stick with Torrey game 2. So the question is, how can you get Josh more minutes in spite of that? And how can you optimize that bench lineup a little bit better? Because if you look at the other side, Ty Lue's got his rotation down, right? We talked about one of our big questions going into the series. Who the hell is Ty Lue going to play? And there are guys who got cut. Covington could have played. He's a solid player. Didn't play. Marcus Morris didn't play. I asked the question on that podcast, is Marcus Morris going to play or is Terrence Mann going to play? Terrence Mann played. He did a solid job. They've got their 9-man rotation.
He's just there to be like Patrick Beverly on Chris Paul, right? That's Terrence Mann's role in these playoffs. Be as annoying as possible to Chris Paul.
They played Plumlee plus 16, Bones Highland plus 13, Terrence Mann plus 13.
Possibly a broken finger by Plumlee? I don't know.
Maybe. And Norm Powell plus 11. And that's their rotation. They've got their 9-man rotation. For us, Josh needs to play. It's a little bit more palatable.
But if he's coming off the bench, does he?
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. Hard.
Yes, he does. Punt Ish Wainwright back to the fucking bench and put another shooter out there and hope and pray also that Campaign comes back and suddenly we're not talking about this as much of an issue. It's when you've got
We
Biz.
didn't mention that Campaign.
We had Biz game, right? And Okogie and Ish all on the floor at the same time. What are we expecting?
I talked about it's not even just that. Shamet was on the floor for some of those minutes too, and he's just not a shooter anymore. As much as we want to pretend like he's a shooter, we haven't seen that in months. When I talk about inexplicable decisions by Monty Williams in this game, I'm not saying there's a lot. I think people tend to just get super mad in the playoffs about everything he does, but the Craig decision was not that. That lineup, it was that, and they got absolutely murdered in that time. It makes no sense to have Ish, Okogie, and Biz on the floor. I mean, it's the reason that Devin Booker was a -6 in this game. Essentially, minutes that he plays with guys like that, you can't get away with that in the playoffs. You can do that in regular season games, and then all of a sudden, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and in some games, DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul will just pull you out of that hole, and you can win the game. Game like this, you can't do it. You have to play as much time as possible without, with some semblance of offense on the floor. I understand going into a defensive lineup. You can't do that for very long in the playoffs. Other teams will take advantage of it, too easily. And in this game, I thought, in particular, I'll mention it again. The Clippers are one of the best coached teams in the NBA, in my opinion. Ty Lue's amazing, and they did a really good job of not guarding the guys that they wanted the Suns to shoot. They were incredibly disciplined in that, leaving DeAndre Ayton open 18 feet away from the basket, leaving Jock Landale or Biz open 18 feet away from the basket, and then fouling them if they're close to the rim, that kind of thing. Putting Zubats on Torrey Craig or Josh Okogie if we see time with Josh Okogie on the floor. Those types of decisions, I think, by a team like the Clippers, if you have very little offense on the floor, you're not going to be able to do anything. They're just too smart. They're too smart and too well coached to be able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, so we got to get more offense on the floor next time out. And luckily, I think there are internal guys we can point to, and that gets a little bit easier. Let's maybe focus on some positives, talk about defense a little bit. In general, how did you feel about the strategy coming out on Kawhi? We guessed that this might be what they were doing. We didn't guess. I'm not going to give us all the credit. We didn't think it was going to be Torrey Craig specifically on Kawhi, that Josh Okogie was not going to start.
Yeah, we thought it was possible.
Yeah, but I
thought Josh Okogie.
I'm just going to say we didn't call that one, and that's fine. What we did call was now KD can play on Russ. And that was, in fact, the way that the Suns started the game. Now, they went away from that strategy actually later in the game, but how did you feel about that?
I think all of that was relatively smart. I think that they're expending a lot of effort to not try to send a second guy when Torrey Craig's guarding Kawhi. When anyone else is, I guess not necessarily Durant, but when it's anyone else, they're really trying to bring another guy or switch Craig back onto him as quickly as possible. Still not totally convinced. I mean, we in this game, 38 points for Kawhi Leonard on 24 shots, including 9 of 10 from the free throw line, and Torrey Craig had 5 fouls. I'm not sure that we should be convinced that Torrey Craig can take him one-on-one.
No one can.
I also think
no one can when he's like this. This was 2019 Toronto Raptors finals run Kawhi, and I don't know if he's going to play like this all series, but just he came out there and had a statement game reminding people that this is who the hell I am, or at least can be in the playoffs. He was the best player on the floor, and we have Kevin freaking Durant. He can be at his best, he is still a top 5 player in the NBA. I don't think he's a top 5 player in the NBA right now, probably because I don't think that's who he is every single night. But at his best, that is who he is. He's sensational.
I'm not going to rule out the possibility that he can do that every night. I think it's very possible. But I also think no possessions at all with Josh Okogie on him is a little bit weird too. None at all. Like, we didn't try that a single time. At some point,
Ish. Again, this is like they had Ish on him a few times, but they never tried Josh because they really wanted to bother him with size. Didn't work. Yeah,
I just don't think that worked. So, going into the next game, we're going to obviously switch over to adjustments here at some point. But going into the next game, you have to throw different looks at him. I don't think you can do the same thing over and over and over again. He's also so good at working off the ball. Very Devin Booker like in that he'll just stand near the basket, and then all of a sudden he's cutting 3 different directions to a wide open mid-range shot from a pass from Russell Westbrook. And somebody like Josh Okogie can bother that a lot more than Torrey Craig, because Torrey Craig's too big to get around screens the way Josh Okogie can. On the other side of that, of course, Kawhi can also do a power game, post you up, push you on the way to the rim, get to the foul line, that kind of thing. That's also something he can do, but it's a lot harder to do that, meaning he might actually expend enough energy, even though he's a robot, to be a little bit tired at the end of the game and maybe miss one of those 2 threes that he took that buried the game and ended it for the Suns. And so just trying different things on him, doing different things, I think would actually work. I personally would still start Josh Okogie in the next game and just see how it works. You can always pull the plug relatively early and put Torrey Craig in, but that first quarter, 18 points in the first quarter. It didn't work. As much as Torrey Craig played well, a bad start can hurt you a lot in the NBA playoffs, and it messes with your, and ended up Kevin Durant played 45 minutes.
I mean, they
played
looked
43 minutes.
They looked like a unit that had spent the last few weeks of the season playing together with Josh Okogie and playing virtually no minutes with Torrey Craig. That's just how it was. Torrey Craig has not been sharing the floor with those dudes. It's just going to be harder.
What would you change about let's talk about Kawhi first. What would you change about the Kawhi Leonard matchup?
It's
for the next game.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's difficult, man. I hear you on Okogie. I really do. I think Torrey's going to stay on him. I don't think there's a whole lot that changes about the Kawhi matchup in particular. I think
I'll bring up an idea you had in the preview. They didn't really expend a ton of energy trying to get the ball out of his hands.
You know what's funny? I can't even remember who they did it on anymore. I don't think it was a Kawhi. Ayton played at the level, 1 possession. Did you catch that? It was like in the...
No, I didn't notice that.
It was
it Gordon maybe?
I don't even remember. I'd have to go back and look. It was in the first half. I don't remember who it was against. I just remember seeing him at the level for 1 possession. I thought, oh, okay. And then he also switched onto Kawhi like once or twice. And I was like, all right, they're doing stuff. They're being a little bit more inventive. Then it went away as we got later on in the game. So obviously not a heavy sample size to look at there. Yeah, I would love if they got more aggressive on him. How many assists did he have tonight? He had 5 assists, 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
Par for the course, honestly.
Yeah, that's something he's capable of doing, but maybe force him to do it a little bit more.
But that's the type of stuff. If you're gonna do that, then Josh needs to be on the floor too, just because he's such an event creation guy. He's gonna create live ball turnovers. He's gonna create that havoc, and you can
That's
then
Devin Booker
transition
now.
and fly into the open court. And how awesome would it be, by the way, because I said it at the very beginning, but we kind of haven't touched on it since then. Booker, with his defensive effort, how awesome would it be if we got that type of effort from Okogie and Devin, or Book rather, on the same night? It would be incredible. Just to underscore again, 4 blocks. What did he have? 4 steals and 3 blocks. The official box score says 3 now. I think the broadcast said 4 at one point for Book. But 4 steals and 3 blocks for Devin Booker. Definitely never seen anything like that.
Yeah, I think the last time a guard, I think StatMuse posted this, last time a guard had 20-plus points, 4+ blocks and steals, it was Michael Jordan. Only Michael Jordan and Devin Booker have ever done it in the playoffs before.
Well,
yeah,
that makes the loss sting even more.
Yeah, I know. He does a lot of incredible things, even when they lose, and that's the thing about being Devin Booker sometimes. But yeah, I mean, we should mention Kevin Durant has a new postseason high in assists with 11 assists in this game, was 1 rebound away from a triple-double. His playoff debut for the Phoenix Suns, 27 points, 11 assists, 9 rebounds, 1 steal, 2 blocks, only 1 turnover in this game. By the way, the entire turnover battle was pretty good. The only player who did not play well turnover-wise was Devin Booker, who had 5, but he also created essentially 7 turnovers on the other side of that, so I think he made up for that a little bit. And so much of that came when the bench guys were on the court as well. But yeah, I mean, Durant was pretty sensational here, but 45 minutes and 27 points the Suns need more. They do need more scoring. I understand why he was getting the ball to the right guys, and he started the first quarter with 0 points, which I don't think will happen that often. But both Devin Booker and Kevin Durant probably need to be 30 plus pretty regularly in the postseason in order to win games and win series. And I hope to see that happen going forward.
Yeah, they're still figuring out the flow of their offense. It's difficult because so much of the stuff that we raved about also with the Clippers, and it just shows you, again, A, their scheme, but B, how well coached they are. So much of the stuff we've raved about for the Suns all season long, it's like, oh, look at how many options they have out of their elbow set. Look at what they can do in the Spain pick and roll. Look at what they can do, when they empty out the corner. And it's like, then you actually get into a playoff game, and here's a team that switches everything, and it's just 80% of it is gone. From the opening tip, 80 to 90% of that shit is gone. And the Suns are forced
all the first options.
Yeah, and the Suns are... and how many times did the Suns even run that stuff in the second half? They didn't at all because it would have been futile. So they started mismatch hunting, essentially, which is generally a great idea when you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. But when they play as poorly as they did in the first quarter, and it can get into their heads a little bit, I think KD kind of as a reaction to that was trying to be as much of a team player as he could and started passing the ball more than he shot it. So I think if he has a better start in game 2, we just see more points from him flat out because he might be more inclined to take 20, 25 shots. But I definitely agree that we're going to need those types of performances out of him going forward.
Well, it started, the Suns had a problem offensively, but it ended with them having a problem defensively. They could not get stops when it mattered the most. They really, really locked down defensively in the third quarter, and you saw a stretch of basketball there where you said, okay, this looks like a contender now. You can see, I mentioned it before the playoffs began. My confidence has not hit the point that I would like it to be in order to feel like this team is going to win this year. There was a stretch in that third quarter where I thought, okay, I can kind of see it now.
Vince
the
McMahon,
defense, the defense works like this. Yeah, exactly. And then, that went away. And look, this team in the Clippers, we mentioned it, they were the best 3-point shooting team for a pretty long stretch there to close the season, even without Paul George. And it's going to be tough. And there was 3 threes really that did it at the end. And, Kawhi Leonard hit 2 of them. One of them, actually, I think both of them were off the ball on catches. And then the other one was Eric Gordon, who was a few feet behind the line, as he tends to be. And he made that one, and that kind of ended it. I actually thought Landry Shamet, who played the most minutes off the bench of any player, which could be related to campaign or it could be just a strategic thing here. But I thought Landry Shamet actually probably did the best job chasing around shooters off ball outside of Devin Booker in this game. But they're helping and they're finding shooters, and those shooters, to be honest, did not make as many as they can in this game. They made 10 threes out of 31 attempts, and the Suns can do a better job, I think, contesting those. The fact that 3 of those 10 threes came in the last 3 minutes of the game is pretty painful, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
More
number one adjustment.
Reliable, more Shamet minutes.
Yeah, I don't love it. I hope Payne comes back soon, but even he's been so iffy. It's just we need to figure out this rotation sooner rather than later. We need to really lock down who our 9 guys are going to be. I don't want to see another 11-man rotation in game 2 or even 10. Ideally,
who would you take out? I got 2 guys I think I would throw out there right now.
You have 2 additional guys you would throw out, or
I know that I would take out of the rotation.
So play Jock instead of Biz. That reduces it from 11 to 10.
I think that's easy.
No Ish.
You just got to do that.
No Ish minutes. Now we're down to 9. And so then your 4 guys off the bench are Josh, Landry. Who are the other guys who played tonight? Let's see. Josh, Landry. Landale. Okay, so Landale.
And then the other guy was Ross.
Replace Ross with Payne. Reduce Shamet's minutes. Up Payne's minutes. And now you've got Payne, Shamet. Honestly, maybe replace Shamet with Ross. Again, maybe swap them out again. I don't know. So
Shamet was working hard defensively in this game. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Shamet was too, but Ross actually tried too.
I don't care. He can't shoot.
Yeah. He really can't. It's crazy. He had those 2 runouts.
Yeah,
2 big layups at a certain point of the game. But yeah,
we might need him anyway. That's the sad part. Look, Payne, Shamet, Okogie, and Landale. There's your 9-man rotation. I feel okay about that. I don't feel great about it. I feel okay about it. What about you?
And if you get in foul trouble, which I think you can, and you probably will, I think TJ Warren could find time on the floor as well. You got to give that a try at some point because he could be a difference maker. And if it doesn't work, you pull him, right? The way they did with Ross in this game, or Biyombo, for example. You play guys when you want to try them, and if it doesn't work, you don't have to continue to play them. And the other option is no Landale or Biyombo. As we talked about, you can find time to put Durant at center. I think he did a pretty good job in the few minutes that they tried that. The trouble is Ish Wainwright being another one of the guys on the floor at that time. Anyone who could hit threes and play defense on this team would be so vital right now. It's a tough part about making a big trade mid-season without a lot of opportunities to fill the roster out with the kind of guys you want to play. If only Damian Lee could play defense, he'd be the perfect addition.
He would
to this team.
That's why guys who play a lick of defense and also hit 37-38% of their catch and shoot threes consistently and actually draw gravity in them, not in the kind of Torrey Craig way. That's why they command so much money in this league. That's why they are invaluable to playoff teams. So
the biggest difference, look, we can talk all the strategic differences we want. The biggest differences in this game would be DeAndre Ayton getting 13 rebounds instead of 8.
Yep.
And Chris Paul going 5 for 9 instead of 2 for 9.
Yep.
Those 2 things happen in this game, and you win by 10.
I mean, those are it's kind of 3 keys to me for the next game. Ayton, don't be a bystander. Chris Paul, hit your elbow mid-range jumpers, attack the drop defense, continue to be aggressive, all of that. And then switch up the bench. Let's solidify a rotation, which I think Monty is capable of making that 3rd final adjustment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are probably the biggest things going forward. Nobody on the we just can't have a scenario where I think Zubac is essentially outplaying DeAndre Ayton. You can't do that.
It's a disaster.
Yeah. That's what happened in this game. That's what happened. He only took 8 shots. He had 12 points. And what did he end with? 15 rebounds? Yeah, 15 rebounds.
14, but good. He was good.
Oh yeah, is it 14? I'm looking at the ESPN box score. It says 15.
So am I.
Oh, interesting. Maybe
fuck! I refreshed it. Now it says 15. Never mind. Good call.
Yeah, so they gave him an extra rebound. You just can't let Zubac outplay And Ayton has had a great series against this team before, and it was admittedly a series where they went small quite a bit. So, obviously that juices rebounding numbers a little bit here, but you just can't let Zubac outplay you. The other thing is, I think they were letting Westbrook get away with a lot of fouls on those chase downs where he was poking from behind. He was hitting elbows quite a bit on those, and I'm not sure if the refs are going to let him do that for the rest of the series or if they're going to make some of those calls. I think that would be a little bit helpful going forward. But yeah, this is the series where the X-outs matter, right? Running out to shooters, closing out as hard as possible. They have to continue to do that on everyone but Westbrook, admittedly, and kind of let Westbrook let it fly.
There were some
but you can't let Eric Gordon be open. You can't let Batum be open.
Batum, too. There were some horrific examples of that maybe I'll find and clip on social media.
In the first quarter in particular.
Tomorrow, on the first quarter, a couple possessions in a row that the Clippers had put the Suns in a hole, specifically where the Suns were not Xing out and not finding the right guys on their rotations. And I think it was either Batum or Eric Gordon who made them pay. So,
and part of that is playing with Torrey Craig. Playing with a group that you haven't played a ton of minutes with yet. You put Josh Okogie out there, they've played a little more together. Maybe they're a little more familiar where each guy's going to be on those closeouts. So that could have been a difference maker there. Monty said before the game that he was a little worried about the break affecting them a little bit, and maybe it did. Maybe they have some rust to shake off. Maybe they come back, play a lot better, close them out in the first quarter at the very least, and then have the ability to maintain that for the rest of the game. But this is a series where if Kawhi Leonard plays like this the whole time, I mentioned it. I'm not sure how they're going to guard Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. One of the best ways they guarded Devin Booker and Kevin Durant in this game was if they missed every shot like they did in the first quarter. I don't want to take away credit from the Clippers. I think they did a really good job, especially in that first half, guarding both of those guys. But they both found ways to score, and they continued to do that as the game progressed. I do think if people were wondering why Durant wasn't super involved at the end of the game, he played 45 minutes. He played 45 minutes. I just don't know how much he has left at his age after playing 45 minutes at the end of a game.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paul's a comparable age, and we only expect what did he play? 35?
33, I think.
Oh, he played 30. He played
39.
He played 39 minutes himself. So you can see the burden that it's taking on all of these guys, and just to have to expect them to all have to play that much just to eke out and win. Imagine if Paul George was playing, man. This would be a really intense battle of a series. And even without Paul George, they have to clean up some things.
Anything else? I know we can keep this one relatively short. We don't have to go for a full hour here, but anything else you want to bring up? I'm sure there's stuff we're missing.
No, I think it's all right, man. I mean, we're disappointed in Ayton. We're a little disappointed in Chris. And the bench was a disaster.
A little disappointed in Monty, I think.
Yeah, a little disappointed in Monty, and the bench was a disaster. Yeah. So I think we kind of laid it all out
and ultimately, look, I don't want to harp on the guys that actually played kind of well here in Booker and Durant, but ultimately they need more scoring from those guys too. To round it out. Those guys need to score.
Torrey Craig.
With the lack of offense on this team.
The Aurora Borealis, if you will. Proud of you tonight. You had a hell of a game.
Yeah.
Mike,
and Booker was amazing.
Mike doesn't want you to start next game. I would be okay if he started again.
Maybe that'll motivate him a little again. Yeah.
But we'll see. So good job, Torrey. Everyone else get your shit together.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
And I'll say this too about Booker. When I say you need more offense from him, he missed shots he normally makes. And the playoffs, when you do that, you can lose a game. And that's what happened in this game. So just make the shots you normally make, and that would help a lot, I think. And he saw 26 points on 19 field goal attempts. Not going to take that away from him. 35 in the next game would be kind of nice. That's all I'm saying. All right. Luckily, look, as much as rest would be nice between these games, it's an every other day schedule for the rest of this first round, no matter how long it takes. That means there's only one day off, and then the Suns are back on Tuesday with another game. We'll be watching that game live, talking about it as it happens, and recording immediately afterwards once again.
That means one day off for us as well, by the way, Mike. I don't know if you realize that. And then we'll be recording a podcast again. And we're going to try and find some ways, I don't know if it's going to happen this week or not, hopefully, to sprinkle in Patreon pods here or there as well.
I think we'll try on the weekends. We'll have more time, right?
We will have to. Maybe we work a guest in or two, or we're going to have to figure out a way to record those on the off days specifically, but we're going to try. So if you're already subscribed to the Patreon, if you're already a patron, look forward to some of that stuff. And otherwise, see you every couple days.
Yep, and join us, just a reminder, on Saturday to watch the game together in Game 4, which will be in LA and probably will be, at this rate, a very important game. So thanks, everyone, for listening. Yeah, and we'll be back soon.
For over a century, Johnny Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereaux Golf, Johnny Walker introduces the Johnny Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereaux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnnywalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly.